It's not just honeybees declining, it's bees in general that really need the help.
Michigan Radio reported this year that half of Michigan bumblebee species have declined by 50% or more.
And so honeybees, while they do pollinate a lot of our stuff, they don't pollinate everything.
Bees are responsible for producing 1/3 of the food that mankind eats. If we didn't have honeybees and pollinators, we would lose that 1/3 crop, which consists mostly of fruits and vegetables, and mankind would eventually starve out. We would have a famine.
The big issue is the lack of pollinators. So the best way to increase the amount of pollinators is to increase the amount of pollen.
Ostrander and Hinkle say it's important to have other bee species that can come and fill in the gaps for pollinating a diverse amount of crops.
There are a lot of other bee species that are kind of underrepresented a lot of the time, that it's important to also include those and to also help those species as well.
Each species of bees have a unique wing vibration that allows them to pollinate certain types of flowers that match their wing frequency.
So mason bees can harvest the pollen from tomato plants, but they can't harvest the pollen from other varieties. And like honeybees can't use tomato plants, but honeybees can use cucumber plants. And so you need to have a high diversity of pollinators in order to pollinate an even amount of species, because they co-evolve with each other.
Lacking diversity is a common farming technique called monoculture. It's the practice of growing a single crop in large fields, one at a time.
So monocultures, especially of corn, soybeans, etc., in the area, they're really, really bad for these pollinator species.
Crops like corn are harmful because bees can use them to pollinate without realizing the large amounts of pesticides used to produce the plant.
All of these chemicals that we're putting on everything, they haven't had enough time to adapt. So usually evolution happens, kind of in a very, very slow process. There's not enough time for that. We're basically not giving them enough time to have that evolution. And so they're like, well, what are we supposed to do?
If bee populations continue to decrease due to damaging practices such as deforestation and monocropping, what does a future without bees look like?
A future with less bees looks expensive.
Einstein supposedly made a statement that when bees disappear from the earth, mankind would disappear 4 years later.
According to Ostrander, the world economic value that pollinators have alone is $11 trillion.
This is something that's happening for free in our own backyard, that if we don't continue to maintain, we're going to lose that. We're going to have to come up with $11 trillion worth of pollinating everything ourselves with little Q-tips. $11 trillion is if we have the engineering to fund it, like if we have like a solution in place. But having to hand pollinate things may seem like, that could be a bunch of jobs, or, it can't be that bad. It's that bad.
Most people do not recognize the impact our bees have on us and the same impact we have on them.
I think that globally a big thing that we face is misinformation and the need for education on the subject.
It seems that the future of pollination is in each of our own hands.
I think that the biggest way that we contribute to this problem is not looking upon ourselves.